Hi everybody, Joey here. I'm just doing a behind the scenes kind of thing because I just want to react to this. I saw it show up in my feed and I'm like, yes! Because for those who don't know, I love looking into the stories of original LEGO themes, trying to either understand them from when I had first known of the themes way back in the day, or explore ones that I've never seen before, or even material on ones that I've loved and never seen before. So it means a lot to me that this exists. First of all, that thumbnail. What is happening here? I've never seen I've never seen those images or renders before. That's one thing. Also, Slugger puts out banger LEGO videos, so even though I am reacting to this in real time with how it's presented, I do recommend checking out the video for yourself and maybe check out my reaction afterwards, because I'm probably going to fill in stuff that it'll probably get confusing trying to watch it all at once here. But hey, either way, check out his channel. He does some amazing videos, a lot of it related to Rock Raiders and a couple other older, early 2000s LEGO themes. And I am so excited for more. Time Cruises is another major one that he's covered a couple times. He's covered a little bit of Galador even. And this is the stuff I love. Well, I don't love Galador as much as he does, I will give it that. But I mean, like, this exploration of LEGO stuff that's always existed, but seldom researched or discussed. And again, I run a channel called Brick Theory, and I've integrated it back into my own channel, Maniac for Bricks, but it's the kind of stuff that I want to do more of, and I've had piles of research for a while. I've just been so, like, all over the place in order to actually get it all done. So I am totally 100% here for this video existing. The thumbnail was enough for me to say, I'm going to love this thing. So let's do it. Also, he does a lot of really good stop motion.
Welcome back, Rock Raiders. I'm your host, R.R. Slugger, and today we're going to be talking about the minor minutiae that makes being a fan of this series so rewarding. Rock Raiders Canon. This video is not meant to lay down the law on the matter, as I have no authority in this department. Honestly, at this point, no one does, so canon is going to be what you make of it. We will...
That's, why I think he means head canon, or... It's literally what I do in Brick Theory. It's like, I'm not saying this is all 100% going to be how you follow it. I'm just trying to put it together in the way that makes the most sense out of what material exists. So, yeah.
Go through the myriad of sources we can use for the lore and things to consider when compiling our own headcanon. Rock Raiders, like many other LEGO themes at the time, had an original storyline featuring the characters and vehicles seen in the sets. The LEGO group has largely shied away from this in recent years, with only a few exceptions.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I know we're talking about a different time, and sure, things have changed over time as to, you know, what makes a LEGO set worth selling. And story, I think, is still important. I mean, even the missions one he brought up here is still one that is based on story. You build each of the sets in order, or each of the parts of the set, to progress the story that the app tells. But I'll have to put my fluid play rant off for another day, but yeah.
But back in the 90s, this was the norm for the toy company. Oftentimes, LEGO themes would have tie-in comics, standalone novels, and magazine featurettes in order to communicate the story ideas to potential fans or customers. Because LEGO products are released in a wide array of regions, localization efforts would frequently and understandably cause some inconsistencies to arise.
One of my favorite examples of this is in LEGO Adventurers, because you have Johnny Thunder, Sam Grant, Joe Freeman, all names for the same character. And it's just been kind of rubbed out of history that Johnny Thunder is the name of that particular character that looks a lot like Indiana Jones. But back then, they didn't keep that story Bible consistent everywhere. That was just like, oh, one region knows him as this, another region knows him as that. Like, in the Americas, I never knew that Johnny Thunder was an ex-army officer before his Adventurers theme. Never came up. in any magazines I read. But in the UK catalog, it showed up in there. It was like, as soon as the theme began, that was like the first line to introducing the character.
Ranging from characters having alternate names to story beats being muddled. Wading through a sea of conflicting details can be fascinating, but it is also easy to get lost in the particulars. Like many other themes, Rock Raiders has so many official sources of lore that one simply cannot consider them all to be canon, as they actively contradict one another. We will have to establish some landmark entries and work our way around that. As the term canon is often used to refer to details that are genuine or true to the original story, what exactly is the original story of Rock Raiders? Well, the general consensus online seems to be that the events of the PC game are to be considered canon of the highest tier. This makes a lot of sense to me, as the game was famously being developed alongside the toys, meaning that Rock Raiders had a unique genesis that led to one of the most authentic video games in LEGO's history. It's also a game that has nearly single-handedly kept interest in this theme alive, so using this as our primary source of lore seems to be the logical choice.
That's usually the choice that I come to when I bring up Rock Raiders with anybody. When I grew up with the theme, I knew about it from the sets and from the video game. And I did not have the PlayStation game, which honestly, you're not missing much if you are, if you do play it. I tried playing it much later, and I'm like, wow, this is so not only different, but worse than the PC one, which has a lot of strategy involved and a lot more cutscenes and a lot of things that actually go together. But there wasn't a lot of other sources of material that I knew back then. I know of a couple activity books. I used to read some of them. But I never really put it in like, oh, it's supposed to coincide with the game or everything else. It's just kind of like, if I want more Rock Raiders, there it is in a book form. I don't remember the comic books, because I know that some of the sets came with comic books, or at least some releases of the sets came with comic books. I don't know if that was a regional thing, but it wasn't something that I remembered growing up with. I would have definitely found those comic books over time with other paper materials and instruction manuals if that was the case. So maybe it was something that was region exclusive or certain editions. I'm not entirely sure.
Ergo, anything that contradicts the details of the PC game might be considered non-canon, though it's not as cut and dry as that. When using a video game as a source of canon, one must consider the separation between a genuine detail of lore and a gameplay mechanic. For example, is it really true that the LMS Explorer is incapable of teleporting a tunnel scout down to Planet U without having a support station in the vicinity first? How can you have missions with trapped miners when it seems like every individual is equipped with a personal teleporter? I would argue these are design decisions made for the purpose of enhancing gameplay and should not necessarily be taken at face value.
Alright, fair enough.
This does, however, shine a spotlight on some of the issues we will encounter throughout this video, as not even our primary source of canon is airtight. This is perhaps tangential, but I do think it's relevant to discussion. How does early or cut content factor into canon? Some of the stuff is even contained on the disc with the rest of the game. Should scabby scavengers be considered canon? What about lurkers? Scorpions?
This guy really knows his stuff about Rock Raiders. Take notes if you are a Rock Raiders fan, because my gosh, I did not know about these. I never would have thought to dive deep into the CD like this, and I appreciate that he did.
See those in the PlayStation game at least. Wait, is the PlayStation game even canon? Hopefully you can appreciate how many factors there are to consider when working with the extensive Rock Raiders lore. Beyond the video games, there were 3 standalone books for the series.
I do have all 3 of these books now, but for a long time I did not have or even read High Adventure Deep Underground. But the other 2 books, Left and Right, I did read as a kid.
One of which I have already featured on this channel. Starting with the race for survival, I consider this to be one of the strongest secondary sources of canon that's out there. Taking place after the events of the PC game, this story serves as a follow-up to the team's original adventure and doesn't rock the boat too much. That being said, now's about as good a time as any to bring this up. What is this item called?
So I knew it as being an energy crystal because of the games, but I've also heard the term Braconium tossed around.
If you're familiar with Rock Raiders, I'd wager you said
Energy crystal.
You're not wrong, but you might be surprised to know that outside of the PC game, nearly every other source of Rock Raiders lore calls them either power crystals or Braconium. Does our primary source of canon trump all, even when it is contradicted by nearly every other source? I don't have these answers. Sorry, I just think these are important points to consider. Regarding the interactive puzzle storybook, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. The narrative is rather light and seems to depict an alternate series of events after the asteroid struck the LMS Explorer. There is no mention of a wormhole, so it's possible this is just another zany adventure on an unrelated planet, but In contrast, the High Adventure Deep Underground graphic novel is the most non-canon thing that ever non-canoned. This is a total reimagining of the source material, complete with liberal character redesigns and flying.
Yeah, I recognize some of those renders from other things at that time. I think like Lego Island 2 renders existed like that. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie when I think that, yeah, I kind of thought the back of the Granite Grinder was kind of a engine, but like in a flying engine sort of way a little bit.
Granite grinders.
At one point,
There are
I'm not
some
even reading
welcome
this.
nods to other lore, such as the rock whale from the PlayStation game, but overall, I don't hold this one in high regards.
Okay, I have not played enough of the Rock Raiders on PlayStation to know that a whale existed? That's weird.
I've never liked the whole Chief has never left the ship angle, as I feel this makes him come off as cowardly, which is unbecoming of the great Rock Raiders leader. This graphic novel doubles down on that by also giving him a plasma arm to
Wait, he just became Mega Man?
fight off the monsters at the end with. This really rubs me the wrong way. Simeon Hankins of Data Design Interactive designed the character to have a prosthetic limb in the first place to help normalize this type of condition. By giving him superpowers, the creators of this graphic novel have effectively othered Chief again, and almost make you wonder why the other Rock Raiders don't follow suit with removing one of their limbs in favor of this wonderful plasma cannon. I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh on this one. Maybe it's actually a thoughtful discussion on the nature of humanity and the moral compass and ethical fortitude required to navigate the quandaries of moving beyond the path of least resistance and embracing the richness and cogitation of post-social cyberneticism.
Those were words.
And then I remember that they don't even get which arm is the prosthetic right.
Hell yeah.
One final aspect of Rock Raiders lore that I often see overlooked is the non-language kind. I'm referring to the small comic books that were included with the sets in certain regions. These days,
There we go. It was in certain regions.
they can be tough to track down. Not even Slugger has a complete collection. Nonetheless, I actually feel that these are some of the best little additions to the Rock Raiders canon. Sometimes they feature the mundane, sometimes they feature the fun, but there is always an intentional emphasis on construction, chaos, and reconstruction. One of the greatest hidden play features in any set from this era is the ease of rebuilding it after having some fun breaking it apart.
Literally, this is giving me a lot of early, like, first, second wave Lego Star Wars flashbacks. 1999, when Lego Star Wars launched, they had comics built into the instruction books themselves, which I think this came out pretty much around the same time as Rock Raiders. They had instructions built into or they had comics built into the instructions themselves where they show just that kind of thing, where you play with the set as it is. Now that you've finished building it, you get some little things going on around it and then rebuild it into something else. And in the instructions, I can still remember this like almost photographically from the Sith Infiltrator with Darth Maul. They'll show you how to build each of those models. They'll give you step-by-step things. Maybe not the most full steps like the original, like the set purpose, but they'll still give you enough photos to follow along with it. That's awesome that Rock Raiders did that kind of thing here, because I had no idea until now. Although I did know about the alternate models back in the day, I just didn't know there was more to them.
With their highly detailed and all too intricate builds, I don't think you can make the same argument with most modern sets, unfortunately. As such, these comic books highlight what made Rock Raiders such a great LEGO theme to begin with, and are purely additive to the lore of the series, in my opinion. I sincerely hope that I've raised more questions with this video than I've answered. I don't want to become the arbiter of Rock Raiders canon, and that was never my intention behind this. If you've seen something in this episode that intrigues you, or have been introduced to another aspect of Rock Raiders lore you were unfamiliar with, I hope you take the time to track it down for yourself and indulge.
I will say, I have tried looking for the Rock Raiders comics out of morbid curiosity before, but not even knowing what substance was in there. It was just more of like, oh, I want to complete the Rock Raiders theme because I have almost all the sets. Might as well go into the comics or a little bit of the extra merchandise. And I've definitely looked it up before, but haven't fully committed to finding even one of those comics or owning one of those comics from the sets. But maybe now I will.
Don't let my reduction of it here be your only source of information on the topic. As I said in the beginning, Rock Raiders canon is what you make of it, and I strongly believe that extends to other themes as well. The stories we create with our imagination are always more worthy than those written in a magazine. Thanks for watching, everyone. I've been your host, R.R. Slugger, and I hope to see you next time for some more high adventure, deep underground.
Is that the thing?
Not that one, no.
Yay! Oh my gosh, you finally did the thing! So yeah, this was fun. And I'm kind of glad that there wasn't a full retelling based on that material and just more of a, well, if you find this stuff intriguing, check it out yourself. That will give you the better picture. It does inspire me to try to go back through it. That being said, I have so many things on the Brick Theory docket as it is, that this one, unfortunately, is going to have to sit in the background for a while. I will have to ask, although I think I know what the answer is already. LEGO Rock Raiders had a brief appearance in Legoland, the PC game, in which it's a park simulator game, much like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but with Legoland. And they had a brief appearance in there where the professor who's helping run the park, basically has a time machine that travels around in the past and trying to adapt things from different time periods in order to construct the park, either make some attractions or whatever, research, whatever. One of the cutscenes with the Legoland game has him go to Rock Raiders. And it doesn't necessarily specify it's in the future or it's in the past or anything like that. My guess, a lot of it takes place in the past, or assuming the past, for the other themes that it covers. Wild West, Adventurers, Castle, etc. As much as I want to say that Rock Raiders could have been in the past to some extent, I also think, well, it's sci-fi enough that they feel like if it was in the past, it would have already happened. So they probably would have had whatever technology needed at the park. So my guess is that it took place in the future at some point. So he's bringing future tech into present day. They actually use a cutscene directly from LEGO Rock Raiders and modify a couple things here and there, or even add extra material to it to make it work with the Legoland PC game. So my curiosity is that canon? is that part of what happens in Rock Raiders? Or is that another Elseworld stories kind of thing? Going back to what he said about the PC game, where it's like, as much as you'd like to consider it canon, it does have a couple contradictions. Maybe this is one of those contradictions. This is one of those things that, it's probably not playing in realistically what the game offers, or what the main story of Rock Raiders is offering. So Legoland, for all I know, could be non-canon, even to other Lego themes. I don't know. I'd have to look further into it, but I will definitely write that as a comment down there. So I think I've babbled enough about this, because, oh my gosh, this video was 9 minutes long and I talked 20 minutes. Yeah. Clearly I have more Brick Theory work to do. I've always had Brick Theory work to do. I've had recordings entirely of videos I need to work on, and it's mostly just about, hey, I need to have a PC that I can actually run that stuff, so I can actually make it happen, and then I'd actually make better videos, and then there'd be more timely videos, and there would be more timeless videos, because then I wouldn't feel cringy uploading them. It would actually be done in a way that actually would be, longer lasting. Instead of feeling like, oh, I should probably remake this like a couple years later because it stinks right now. So, yeah. Bye.